Hello and welcome to Designer Discussions. Today we are continuing our conversation with our guest, Duane Becker, and we're going to learn more about the importance of unexpected value within the sales process. Welcome to the Designer Discussions podcast with
Jason,
Miriam,
and Maria, where we talk about marketing, PR, and business advice for design professionals. Are you an interior designer facing the challenges of marketing your business? Are you struggling to find the time and looking for effective solutions?
You're not alone. Many interior designers and remodelers share these same pains, but there is a solution.
Welcome to the Designer Discussions Academy, where we understand your challenges and are here to help.
Our academy offers a monthly focus on marketing, PR, and business development tailored for interior designers and remodelers.
Learn the most important marketing tactics from SEO to get press, social media, and even harnessing the power of AI.
Join us at the Designer Discussions Academy and take the first step towards transforming your interior design business.
All right, so if you caught Duane in our last episode, we are going to start part 2 because we want you to be just as excited as we are to talk about sales for interior designers and the kitchen and bath remodeling industry. We all know that this can seem a little bit scary sometimes, but I promise Duane's going to walk us through some of the processes and explain to us how we can begin to implement these concepts into our business and help change how we are working.
So thanks, Maria. The first thing that came up as a question, and Maria actually asked me this earlier, was at what point does the sales process begin? And the simple answer is from your first point of contact with the prospect is when the sales process begins. And it never ends until they're no longer a client of yours. The whole thing is a sales process. And a lot of designers might argue that. It's like, no, I'm working on a design. I'm presenting my design. That's not sales. Yes, it is. And it is sales because throughout every single aspect of the design process, you as an educated and insightful designer are using your experience and knowledge to demonstrate to your prospect what you think the best solution is going to be for their project. With regard to that, much of the time, your prospect might present other ideas of what they're interested in. Now, you might have an opinion about why those ideas aren't necessarily the best solution, and you trying to show your prospect how what you're suggesting might be a better choice is sales. That's what sales is about. So a lot of people, especially designers, and well-founded, the sales industry has developed a bad name for itself because of all the salesy manipulative tactics that have come around over the last 100+ years in sales. However, to be a successful salesperson really just boils down to this, and this is where designers fit in perfectly. A good salesperson is a salesperson who helps their prospect solve a problem and provides a solution to that problem. That's what a salesperson does. Now, a good salesperson doesn't use any salesy tactics to do that, but that's what sales is. So it's very simple. So that, as a designer, is what you are doing when you are rehabbing a person's space. Is they have a space they're not comfortable with, not happy with, or needs a facelift. That's their issue. They want to solve it. So that's what you're there for. So every step of the way is part of the sales process. So just understand that from the get-go. You're a designer and a salesperson. That's just the way it is, but that's not a bad thing. So shake off that salesy slime, if you will, if that's what you're feeling, because it doesn't have to be that way.
So I think as an interior designer, anybody who's a designer, what you're having to do is sort of open your client's mind to a new concept anyway. Nobody is going to experience change or want to do something different than what they already expect without the help and guidance of someone else And I did once hear a person that I knew who did sales say, all you're doing is showing someone what they want. And I believe as interior designers, we have an actual very easy approach to sales. But I also think that we don't realize that you should have structure in place that can help make the whole process for both the client and you as the designer better. So hearing that and knowing where designers come from and that we're scared, what are some things that you see that we could do better and that we could have a process implemented, and possibly give us an example so that we can start to see ourselves as salespeople and understand what we're doing is right and that we can make it better?
Okay, so a few things. There's a couple things that can be done better from my experience. The first primary thing that I see is schedule your appointments with your client. And what I mean by that is, yeah, you're initially going to schedule an appointment to review their project, to initial, what I like to call an idea gathering session, to go over what they want to accomplish. Sure. And to see if you're going to be a good fit for them and vice versa, of course. Assuming, based on what you discover in that meeting, that the both of you would like to move forward with the process beyond that. And by the way, you need to also, speaking of the sales process, you need to discover, you need to write down and figure out how you're going to have that initial discussion so that you can determine whether it's worth moving forward or not. But that's a whole other episode, right? Once you determine throughout that meeting, at some point in that meeting, that both you and the client want to move forward with things, set the next appointment. So many times I hear designers say, yeah, this person's ghosted me. I don't hear back from them. I email them, I call them. And my first reaction was, did you set an appointment before they left last time they were here? No. Okay, well, there's your problem. It's like they don't have any reason to get back to you because they don't know how this process is supposed to go. Schedule an appointment. The analogy I like to say is be a dentist. Everybody goes, what do you mean be a dentist? Does your dentist will like practically chain you to a chair and not let you leave before you make that next appointment. It might be 6 months down the road. And you'll say, well, I don't know what I'm doing 6 months down the road. That's okay, Mr. Customer. We're going to send you a reminder about a month in advance of your upcoming appointment, and you can reschedule if needed. Okay, great. Why do they do that? Because they're a dentist. Nobody wants to go to the dentist. If they let you go, you will never be making that next appointment with them. It won't happen. Do the same thing as a designer. Do not let them go without making the next appointment. Now, just like the dentist, your customer needs to know what's going to be accomplished at that next appointment. I mean, it might just be, a routine cleaning. But if you're having crown work done, they're going to talk about what's going to be accomplished at that appointment. If you need to bring somebody with you to drive you home because of an anesthetic, anything like that, they're going to coach you through that. You should be doing the same thing with your client. One of the things that I like to talk about as far as why people don't continue forward in the process of purchasing a kitchen or bath design is because of fear. Lots of fear of almost anything under the sun at any point in the conversation, but a large part of it is fear of the unknown. They don't want to continue forward if they don't know what's going to be accomplished at that next appointment. So you've got to review it so they know what's going to happen. So do that. And then, of course, follow up with them, usually about 2 days in advance, and confirm the appointment. Great thing about having the appointment is now you have a reason to follow up to confirm the appointment. That's another thing that I have a little pet peeve about in that I have heard designers checking in with their customer. Well, I wanted to see if they're called back like a week later. I wanted to see if you had made a decision yet. Stop bothering me. If I had made a decision, I'd be letting you know. Go away. Following up you've got to provide you've got to have a reason to follow up. Checking in to see if they've made a choice yet is not a reason to follow up. Confirming an appointment is a reason. Providing additional value. Hey, you know what? I saw this great thing online that is directly related to your situation. I'm going to send you a link for it. Please have a look in an email. Great, cool. That's it. That's a great reason to follow up. Another great reason to follow up is, hey, I have a couple new ideas in your project that we didn't discuss last time we were here. When can we set up a meeting and review those things? Awesome, great reason to follow up. Because the other thing about follow-up, which if you have a next scheduled appointment, you don't have to even think about. But let's assume for a moment you don't have a scheduled appointment and you have to follow up. What is your primary goal as a designer when you're following up? Whether you're doing it by email or phone or whatever, and the answer is to get them back in the door. That's your primary goal. Not to convince them to say, yeah, I want to buy that. They're not going to say that to you over the phone or by email most of the time. And not to give them pricing. Please don't ever give them pricing without legs attached. I love that phrase. I learned it from another salesperson. Don't give them pricing without legs attached. That means if you're not in front of them, don't give them any pricing. Don't send them pricing by email. I see designers doing that all the time. Why? Because then they don't have a reason to, A, visit with you. They've got all the information they need. And there's no justification behind why the price is what it is. You're not there to explain anything. So it's just, to them, it could be an arbitrary number. So when you're following up, yeah, your goal is to get them in the door. Let's say, and to give you an example of what I mean by don't give them pricing over the phone, whatever. Let's say they email you and they ask you for some changes in their project. And they want to know in the email, they say, can you also let us know how that's going to alter the overall bottom line? Sure, absolutely. Email them back at some point when you're done with those changes and say something to the effect of whatever's comfortable for you. I'm just about done with the changes. I had a couple more questions for you though, before I can give you that bottom line price. When can we meet and review everything? That's it. End of story. If they're interested in pursuing that, they'll set up an appointment with you. If they're not, they're going to start goading you for what the changes mean and what the price is. And once again, I want to make sure you understand fully what these changes mean. When can we meet so I can go over it with you? And don't leave it wide open and then say something to the effect of, I can meet you Tuesday morning at 10, or I'm available Thursday afternoon at 3, which is better. And almost guaranteed they'll pick a time. With every single transaction you have with the customer, every appointment, what you have to ask yourself is, what am I doing to move the process forward? Another thing that I feel a lot of people need to get more comfortable with as designers. You need to be comfortable talking about money. You're selling a project that's going to cost money, and in much of the time, it's going to cost a lot of money. And now the one thing you need to understand is what is a lot of money to you may be different than what is a lot of money to your prospects. So get that out of your head. But get comfortable talking about it so that you're nonchalant about it. And what I mean by saying you need to be nonchalant about it is, the phrase I like to use is, I say to a lot of designers, why are you trying to scare your customers? Like, what do you mean I'm trying to scare my customers? You just told them their new kitchen remodel project is $47,383.18. $47,383. Oh my God, I didn't spend that much on my last car. Okay, why are you scaring them? You know, there's a reason why car commercials say that it's 43.7, because it sounds like not a big deal. It's nonchalant. So act like when you present that, like they've got that cash in their pocket and they're ready to plunk it down on your desk right in front of you. Because for them, that might be the very thing that they're willing to do. You know, hypothetically. So when you present the price, for example, point to the price, maybe have it printed out and say it's 40, something that's comfortable and casual. But what I like to do is it's 43.7 and change. Okay, 43.7, but they can see the number right in front of me anyway. So they don't need any more details than that. But if I say 43,000, I'm trying to impress upon them how huge that is. Don't do that. So yeah, be comfortable talking about money because you're going to have to. Be comfortable asking them how much they want to invest in their project. Do not, and I'll say it again, do not put pencil to paper on that project until you know what their budget is. Because it doesn't make sense for you to go and do a project that's going to cost them 57,000 when they have 30 grand to spend. Now, obviously, you can't have that discussion about budget until you understand what they want to accomplish. But once you know the scope of the project, now it's time to start talking to them about how much they want to invest in that project. And a great way to phrase it, which I did learn from somebody else, is just asking them, okay, so how much are you comfortable in spending for this project? Comfortable with, not willing to, or how much money do you have to spend? Because that can be a different number. How much are you comfortable with in spending? And just give me a range. A lot of customers will kind of dig in their heels on that question. And a lot of them will say, the common reactions that I hear are, price isn't an issue. I've heard that. And then my stock reaction is, great, so we're going to design a $150,000 kitchen for you, and you're good with that. Oh, whoa, no. Okay, so there is an issue there. There is a limit there. So let's talk about what that is. And then the other reaction I hear frequently is, well, I don't know how much these cost. I don't know how much projects like this might cost. And that's where you could show them recent projects that you've done and the scope of what was included, some photos, and tell them how much they were, to kind of give them a sense of reality. Or you can coach them through saying, well, if this project was, and start high, if this project was between 80 and 100 grand, would you be comfortable with that? No, not really. And then keep coming down, and you're going to find a range that they're going to go, yeah, somewhere in there is what we were thinking. But once you, and this is kind of elaborating on the being comfortable talking about money part, once you have a reaction from them with a range. I'm sorry. The one other reaction I also hear is, we're not really comfortable giving you that figure. And then sometimes you have to explain that, look, the reason I asked for the range of what your budget is not so that I can spend every penny you've got. It's so that I can make the proper choices to hopefully keep you close to that as we go through the scope of the project. Oh, okay. And it's just like, think of it as a real estate agent. They're not going to show you a home until they know how much you have to spend on that home. It doesn't make sense for them to show you a $550,000 home if you have $350 to spend, and that's your budget. They're wasting their time. Same thing that could happen with a remodel project. So the great thing is, once you get a reaction from them about what range they would be comfortable with, now you can coach them on what they want to accomplish in their project, on whether that range is realistic. And that's where it's really useful. That's where you can, in a nice way, of course, send them packing, because that budget won't cover what they want to accomplish. It's not even close. Okay, well, based on what you told me, you need to re-examine those numbers, because this is not enough money to do what you want to do. Now, I can make some suggestions on things that we can remove from the project to maybe lower the cost, but you won't be able to accomplish all this. Or the other extreme is, yeah, that's comfortable, we can work with that. Usually the in-between, though, is, okay, that's going to be a little bit of a challenge, but let's see what we can do. And that way, and I love that reaction, because that way, when you are doing your final presentation on the project and the number you present is a little over what that range was, you already set them up for that. So and I'm going to use low numbers here just as an example, but like if their kitchen project, if they said they had a range of up to around 20,000 and their numbers came in around 24 and 25, yeah, that's not a huge jump probably for them if they love what you've done. But you already kind of set them up for the fact that, yeah, it's going to be a tight squeeze to get that in there. So get comfortable talking about those ideas, get comfortable about talking about money, because your client's coming to you to spend money.
When it comes to the sales process, I feel like there's very little delineation between customer service and quality of service and the actual sales process. I feel like these are pretty much what I think someone would define as the customer experience and the customer service level of having a business. So when you're working with people and you're helping them through the process and making it an easier, safer process for them, that's typically what some people might define as customer service instead of just strictly sales. And I do feel like there's this combination of understanding the service of the customer is implementing a sales process.
Yeah, it's really customer service and sales is really, in many cases, I won't say in every case, it's kind of one and the same. It really is. So to elaborate on that for a moment, I have my own company, Sopre Training, to help coach designers and sales design teams and studios on how to improve the presentation and selling skills. What I do to pay the bills is I'm a representative for a cabinet company. You know, when I'm going in and I'm visiting designers on my day-to-day business, a lot of what I do is not sales. It's not salesy, if you will. It's providing the best service I can to the people who are selling my product. And if I can provide them the best service, maybe even better than the rep I'm trying to compete with, I've won. They're going to sell my stuff. I don't even need to tell them that they should be selling my stuff because of X, Y, and Z. They just will. In fact, to elaborate on that, a little story. Years and years ago, a prospect walked into one of the places I routinely visited, and they asked the designer there, they said, and yes, the customer had a sales background, so he knew to ask the right questions. But he said, I know you have a number of cabinets here that are very similar, probably, but probably have some subtle nuances in between them to make them different. He goes, but I have one question. Who gives you the best service after the sale? And the designer answered him, and he said, that's the cabinet I want to buy. I'm like, that's brilliant. It's fantastic. And I have the same thing about, and I give the other example when we're talking about home appliances. There's a couple brands out there that, at least in my area, the appliances are fantastic. But if something goes wrong with them, forget about it. You might as well be dead to them. Whereas there's a couple other brands that are okay. They're not quite at the level of these other brands design-wise, but the service is phenomenal. Like, that's the one I'm going to buy because of that. So yeah, customer service, like you said, is huge when it comes to sales. I'm going to go, if I'm buying anything, and if I think there might be a customer service issue attached to it potentially in the future, I'm going to start doing research on what company gives you the best service. So yeah, I think a designer should view it from the same perspective. And here's the thing that I run into a lot. A lot of companies, design firms want to try to promote themselves as being different. You'll see it on their websites. We're different than everybody else because we care about our customers. Something like that. It's like, well, yeah, so does the other guy. You know, and they'll still tell you that too. When it comes to customer service, don't talk about how your customer service is fantastic. This comes down to marketing. Just be fantastic. That's all you need to do. You don't need to advertise that. fact, lots of times if you advertise it, you're going to be dinged on it because you advertised it and something didn't go the way you wanted it to. Provide great service, and word will get out that you should be doing business with these people. So yeah, that's kind of a sales and marketing thing all wrapped all into one.
Because it's kind of interesting because, we've been talking about the sort of blurred line between marketing and then the point at which sales kicks in, and then the point at which customer service kicks in. And honestly, I believe customer service starts at the beginning and it is carried throughout the whole thing. And I believe a lot of people think customer service is what happens after the project's done or towards the end of the project. And like you had said earlier, that people are fearful and they also want things simple. And so if someone can provide them something that's simple and that they're carried through it in an easy way, that just eliminates fear anyway. And if they're getting a high level of service and care the whole time, and that's through technically a sales process, as interior designers and kitchen and bath remodeling businesses, I think it's actually very interesting to see how we can begin to implement these tools in our processes that we have now, because none of them are abrasive. None of them make it more fearful. None of it makes it more difficult. And none of it is just a numbers thing, right? Like if you're providing a low level of service, you have a lower price, right? So ultimately having a high level of service will warrant the higher price points.
Sometimes if you provide a low level of service, you still have a higher price. I mean, that happens.
In the long haul.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. In the long haul, for sure.
Yeah, service it starts from day one. Yeah, a lot of people define, kind of like what you talked about, customer service as follow-up or resolution solvers. And it depends on how you define customer service, but customer service is just service. And it's what you provide from the get-go. And the key to that is, and this is a very sales thing, is provide value, but even more so, provide unexpected value. That's the kicker. Because if a client is coming to you to do a remodel project, they have certain expectations in their head for what you're going to do for them. If you can take it a step further and do that little bit more that they never expected, you've won them over, you've won their friends over, and all their relatives. If you want to read a book about it, I don't know if this was just published, but it's recent. Check out a book called Unreasonable Hospitality. It's fantastic. It is written by Will Guidara. He took over as manager of a Manhattan restaurant called 11 Madison Square, I think. I'm guessing a little bit, so don't hold me to it, but in something like 4 years, he took them from a 1-star Michelin restaurant to the best rated restaurant in the world by providing unreasonable hospitality. Stuff that is just like mind-blowing. Great book, but you can take some of those ideas and you can say, okay, how can I implement some of those ideas in what I do every day to just blow people's minds with what I'm providing? And some of them can be really simple.
What you're talking about, Duane, that actually heads back to an episode we had way back when, episode 13 with Kimberly Sundit, where she had talked about a whispered wow, and she used to be in the hospitality industry also. And she had talked a lot about how those small things really help take you to the next level in the client's eyes. So listen to that one when you have a chance as well.
Okay, absolutely. Like one thing I always suggest is, let's say you have a heart-to-heart conversation, you're getting to know your prospect, and they're talking about their 2 Weimaraners that they're absolutely in love with in their home, and you happen to stumble across this great video online that had to do with Weimaraners that is like amazing. Email them a link to it. Hey, this made me think of you. They're going to love you for doing just those little things. And that's a simple example. You can take that and kind of run with it, but your prospect is going to love you for thinking of them for those simple things. A little thing that they maybe had mentioned, just off the cuff, barely a thought as far as they were concerned. Next time you meet with them, bring them a little gift that has something to do with that. Hey, I saw this in the shop the other day and I thought of you. Here, this little $20 thing or whatever. And they're going to be like, I can't believe you remembered I even mentioned something like that. And it shows, not only does it show that you're thinking of them, but it really proves to them that you were listening. Because that's a lot of things. That's another thing that, Maria, that's another thing I hear from clients a lot is the designer, when they have shopped somewhere else, the designer just wasn't listening to me. They weren't listening. So whenever I hear that from a prospect, I try to prove to them that I'm listening, I'm hanging on their every word, and what they have to say is important. But yeah, it's you can really go wild with little things like that will really, really impress upon your client. And once again, do a few little things like that and keep it up, make it a routine, and price will become very irrelevant. People will be breaking down your door to do business with you. Good.
So, Duane, if anyone in our audience wants to get in touch with you, how do they do so?
They can email me at duane.becker@sapre training, SAPRE training.com. Or they can find me on LinkedIn as well. Those are the best two ways.
Awesome. We appreciate having you here for this 2-part episode, and hopefully our audience now understands a little bit why you need the marketing and the sales process to really have success in your remodeling and design business.
Thank you. It's been fun.
All right. We hope to see you all here in 2 weeks on Designer Discussions.
Are you an interior designer facing the challenges of marketing your business? Are you struggling to find the time and looking for effective solutions?
You're not alone. Many interior designers and remodelers share these same pains, but there is a solution.
Welcome to the Designer Discussions Academy, where we understand your challenges and are here to help.
Our academy offers a monthly focus on marketing, PR, and business development tailored for interior designers and remodelers.
Learn the most important marketing tactics from SEO to get press, social media, and even harnessing the power of AI.
Join us at the Designer Discussions Academy and take the first step towards transforming your interior design business.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Designer Discussions and all of the helpful information. Subscribe to our podcast, leave us a review, and share it with your friends. We look forward to having you back next week. For more information on the podcast and the marketing studio, visit designerdiscussions.com and follow us on social media.